So you've congrats on the most recent fund. Please tell us, give more insight for that. I'd like you to give a plug-in for that. And then second, you've had to raise across a very interesting region. And I would like to say founders and innovation is global. And so the problems are very much the same, both the problems of building a company, raising a fund, whether it's already or just fundraising in general. Insights that you would basically have, would definitively that you see, and I'll go back to the question, is like your founders who are raising, you yourself have raised, and there's a miss in that. I'll give you one data point. On average, between, so we just did our fundraise, so Ridge Ventures raised Fund 5, it was a $180 million fund. I did some math on this. There's between 50 and 80 different touch points with the potential LP from when you first have that conversation. Now, I'm not expecting the same to happen with venture fundraising for founders, but that's literally the effort it took to start from start to finish. So yeah.
So thank you. Let me classify two different answers. First, how we fundraise, how we view fundraising, and how they will apply to the founders. And second, a bit more specifically on why and how the founders, in my view, should pitch now, which is slightly different from the VC. So first, on commonalities between VC fundraising and the founders. First, I think it's important to always highlight VC's fundraising also is very difficult. I wouldn't say it's more difficult or less difficult. Everyone has a different style, but all I can say is also extremely humbling journey for everyone. Normally, the way I would say Shorooq, we're founders partners, not only because we truly believe working with the founders, but also because we know how difficult it is to be a founder. Like Shorooq business model, actually, it just happens to be we invest in other companies, but we're also a startup. And we actually, it sucks because we see our revenue really in year 7, year 8, whereas you can actually see your revenue perhaps the next week. So there's a lot of stuff, and we also have to just raise on a pitch deck. But at the end, I think what I can really come back to as the emphasis on fundraising is, if you're really hustling and actually are persistent to share how you're different and what your thesis is, and what I really want to highlight is you got to be extremely thoughtful on what you really want to build at your firm. As a startup, I think sometimes where it's easy to be carried away. I want to do this because this companies in the US or Asia were popular. I think I have a little bit of a family background or network or a college background. Let me kind of do that. I think I really want to ask how many of us really spend months to think about what's really the value prop you think you can build versus 10 others. This really applies to the VCs also. Like at the end, many people will say I'm early stage. Like what does it mean? Like early stage from pre-seed, seed, pre-A, series A. Some people will say I have this in Saudi, this in UAE, I have this fintech. But I think some people say everything is fintech. Like we really need to be thoughtful on how we are different, how I can dominate that space, and I would dare use the word, we got to really win in that market. And that's how AOPs will give us the capital and how VCs will give the founders the capital. So being thoughtful, and I am really sorry to say such a generic word, but I think that is something, in my view, all of us sometimes would need to do a bit more. Now for the founders, I think about 3 to 4 months ago in the similar event in the UAE, I mentioned that for Pakistan founders at the moment, there are a few things probably if you can articulate the following points well, it's easier for you to fundraise. First, a lot of international investors have a view that Pakistan as a country and the ecosystem, the next 3 years minimum, if not 5 years or so, is going to be tumultuous journey. So, and we're okay because we're in the long term, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't have any plans on how you're going to mitigate the potential fundraising risk type of thing. So if you can really articulate how I'm going to build a defensive unit economics, recurring revenue, repeat customer dynamics that will drive to profitability, Again, being able to articulate on these, even if you're a presidency, even if you're wrong, is very different from not being able to articulate at all. And I think this is really, really, really critical, where I think sometimes we're too excited about top down, but it's also important to talk about that. Second, I also give a feedback, or just my consideration, that if you can show that either you can build such a massive business in Pakistan, again, as a profitable only, or you can also do cross-border, cross-revenue, dollar-based revenue is even more positive, because we know that then you can actually use the current situation as your strength. Dollar-based revenue while keeping your costs low in local currencies. That's the actually huge strength, right? We know that frankly, GCC cost is not cheap. It's constantly going up, and it's actually going up in an accelerated pace. So if you can address and show that my model, I can compete and do well compared to all these different countries while keeping my costs low, I think that becomes a huge strength in the current market.